For all intents and purposes, I'll call this meeting to order, and I think we do have a quorum here. And I'm confident that Paul will join us at some point during executive session. That's important. So no further ado. It is March 24th, 2022, 6:32 p.m. I'll call this meeting to order, of which we're going to immediately go into executive session. So what I'll do for purposes of this immediate agenda items, I'll ask the town administrator just to read the executive session agenda items. And when we come out, I'll have a read the entire agenda, which, will have a general public more viewership for. So Diane, please read the executive session agenda.
Okay,
items.
so the board will enter into executive session for item 1, which is strategy session to prepare for contract negotiations with non-bargaining employee pursuant to GL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 2 and 7, and Suffolk Construction versus DCAM 449 Mass 444, 2007, the DPW Director. Item number 2 is meeting with town council in executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 3, 6, and 7, and Suffolk Construction versus DCAM 449 Mass 444, 2007, to discuss 31 Hunting Lane, 41 North Main Street, Igor Lebowski et al. Versus the town of Sherman, Land Court number 21, MISC PS 000193. HPS parentheses and 31 Hunting Lane LLC versus Sherborn Board of Appeals, Housing Appeals Committee number 2021-05, and 41 North Main Street LLC versus Sherborn Board of Appeals, Housing Appeals Committee number 2021-06. You'll need a second and a roll call vote.
All right, so as chair, I declared an executive session warranted for the agenda items as just read by the town administrator, and I move that we go into executive session for those reasons. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Jeff?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Marianne? I read lips. Paul? I read lips there too. All right, so it sounds like we have unanimous vote. I vote aye as well. Actually, I moved, of course. To go into executive session, I guess, Jeff, if you could please pause the recording. All right, let's all here. Thank you very much. We, the select board just exited executive session. We are now in for the rest of the agenda for open session. And just to reconfirm for the record, it is March 24th, 2022, 7:13 p.m. And again, we're resuming the open session portion of the meeting. I'm going to ask the town administrator to please read the remaining open portion of the agenda.
Diane, you need to unmute. Diane.
They muted a town administrator.
Good evening. So we'll start off the evening with a public comment by Kim Chester from Sherman Picks Up. Item number 1 will be our consent agenda, which was the payroll warrant. And the next meeting dates of March 26th for the advisory public hearing, then March 28th, advisory public hearing if needed. And then the next regular select boards meeting would be April 7th. Then there's a consideration of a 1-day liquor license for April 2nd for the Polly Bounds Friends of the Sherman Library. Item number 2 is a consideration of a joint appointment with the Sherborn Water Commissioners. And that person is for Tara Horahan for a term to expire at the 2022 annual town election. Item number 3 is a consideration of a memorandum of understanding with All in Energy. And that will be with Dorothea Von Herter, our sustainability coordinator, and Michael Lesser. Then there is the consideration of the MWRA Aqueduct application that is being brought by Marion Nutra. Number 5 is the consideration of approval of agreement for an intermunicipal primary fire and police department dispatch system between the town of Sherman and the town of Holbrook, and Chief Tom Galvin is bringing that forward. Number 6 is the consideration and vote of draft ballot questions for the annual town election, and these need to be to the town clerk by April 5th. Number 7 is to review and discuss and prep for anything the board would like to discuss on regarding the advisory hearing on Saturday. Then is consideration of routine business with select board reports and interim town administrator reports.
Very good. Do I have any motions or amendments relative to the agenda?
Move
I'd
to
move
approve the agenda as read.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Jeff,
Aye.
Marianne,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
I might as well. Thank you. Okay, first up is public comment. Kim Chester, are you here, Kim?
He is here.
If you
You
can,
need to unmute yourself, Kim.
There
you
she
go.
is.
I'm muted. Hello.
Hi, Kim.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kim Chester. I live at 6 Perry Street in Sherborn, and I'm here tonight with, hopefully, I think Catherine is here somewhere, one of the
She's here.
co-founders of Sherborn Picks Up, Catherine Rocchio. And for anyone who hasn't heard of us before, Sherborn Picks Up is a volunteer movement created 3 years ago with the encouragement of the select board and the ongoing support of the entire crew at the DPW, led by Sean Colleen and one of our other co-founders, Addie Mae Weiss. Our mission continues to be raising awareness about and inspiring action around the increasing tide of litter appearing along the roadways, fields, streams, ponds, woodlands, and wetlands. As we celebrate the arrival of spring in New England, we're reminded that daffodils shouldn't have to crawl up through discarded coffee cups, nor should ducks and swans have to be swimming around floating plastic bags in our waterways. The good news is that there are many reasons for us to ignite our third Sherborn Picks Up in the month of April. And there's enough litter for everyone, so please don't be shy. The DPW will reinstall our litter letter installation of 5-foot letters spelling the word Y, which will be ready and waiting at the Route 1627 split for the litter that Sherborn collects in the month of April. Our litter letter installation was noticed and inspired Melrose to build their own. And now Medfield has reached out to me and as they would like to create one of their own as well. Many, many people stopped in their cars and would ask, what is that for? And we were so happy to get a chance to tell them. I know that every one of you is anxious to find out how to participate in this great townwide event. So Catherine is going to review the logistics with you next. But we would all like to thank the entire crew at the DPW, Henry, George, Louis, Brian, Joe, Chris, Kurt, and of course, Sean, for all of the assistance that they give us in helping to make Sherborn Picks Up a success. In closing, I'd just like to offer a quote from Steve Connell from his Strawpocalypse YouTube. If you haven't seen it, it's fantastic. One small action becomes a movement in the direction of a solution. Please join us in April and add to the ripples that we are creating with our actions. And please, when you see someone out picking up litter, roll down your window and give a little cheer. Sherborn Picks Up. The kids love it. And now for how do you sign up? Over to Catherine.
Yes, this is Catherine Rocky on Harrington Ridge Road. We do have this posted under the website, under town news. There's information about the efforts, and there's a sign up genius there. The reason why we're doing it that way is so that we can communicate with people who have signed up. And new this year, real quick, is dedicated 8 to 10 in the morning, 4 times to work on 4 difficult areas in the town, North Main Street, Coolidge Street, Western Ave, and Route 16. And that's all there with the support of the Sherborn Police during these hours, 8 to 10. And we're so excited about that. I can't even tell you. So that's in addition to people picking up their choice of where they want to work and when. We're going to have this sort of community focus from 8 to 10 on 4 Saturdays, 4 of the 5 Saturdays in April. All of the sign up genius. So we're excited.
That's excellent. Yeah, that's a great program. No question about it. And just watching that, that's what do you call it? That thing at the split just fill up every day was interesting. It's always fun.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for what you guys do. I could see the difference last year. I mean, I participated as well. I see the garbage piling up on Whitney now that the snow has melted, and looking forward to get out there with my girls and pick it up. So
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you for participating last year. We had some great photos of you, as I recall.
Thanks.
A quick question, and I'm not looking to divert this any longer, but does that passing Massachusetts, the anti-nip bottle law? I don't know, not to put Tom on the spot. Does anyone know if that's passing in the mass law?
I think it's a town by town
Is it
thing,
town by town? Okay.
because there was a town, just saw it on like one of the local news stations that a town was considering, I think it was Quincy is actually considering it this year, banning the nip bottles.
Yeah, I just wrote one for another town. There's not a statewide law, but it allows us as the licensing authority to put it as a condition of our licenses. So the ABCC has issued decisions that said that the local licensing authorities can modify the licenses of package stores to eliminate nip bottles. We
Let's
don't have
see.
to go to town meeting.
Chief Galvin has his hand raised.
Yeah, that was just one of the things, as Mr. Durenza said, is that we did when I was in Berlin, is that as a condition of the licensing was a no sale of nip bottles. One thing we were actually able to do also through discussions with the liquor stores was to get them to contribute to an event like this, to Sherborn Picks Up, to actually contribute financially, but also with advertising and things to get more people out there to help clean up the litter that was in town.
Well, I tend not to be an regulation person. That's something, it goes beyond the litter. I mean, I don't know how much people appreciate this. It just means to actually avoid the open container law. People buy these nips, they down one, they toss it out the window, and they don't have an open container. So it actually leads to obviously impaired driving as well. Either way.
We
All right.
actually find bags of empty nips on the side of the road.
Wow.
You have to go out and do it to see it. It's all alcohol bottles. So anyway,
It really is.
Well, thank you again for your efforts in this.
Okay.
Absolutely.
you out
Thank
there.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So moving on, we have agenda item number 1, consent agenda. Do we have any motions or amendments relative to the consent agenda?
Move approval.
Second.
All right. All in favor, Jeff,
Hi,
Marianne,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
All right, very good. I am I as well. Okay, agenda item number 2, consideration of joint appointment with the Sherborn Water Commissioners. Tara Orhan, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, is nominated for a term to expire in 2022 town election. Who is here to speak on that? Is there someone?
Tara is here, actually.
I see that is Roger Demler.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Water Commission should convene, if I
Yep.
could suggest that,
Yep.
since there's a majority here.
And they posted accordingly as well.
okay, thank you very much. As you know, Brian Moore vacated his position on the Water Commission last winter, and I'm really fortunate to be able to nominate Tara Farhan to be appointed in the short term for the Water Commission. We have a person who has a extensive background in real water systems for small towns and several of them around us, and I'm really happy to have her interest. Perhaps, Tara, would you like to say something?
Yeah,
Very good.
absolutely. So, good evening. So as Roger said, I have an extensive water background. You know, I served as an engineering consultant for over 16 years, dealing with mostly drinking water side of things. I've been a resident for 8 years. I have a couple children. I have a freshman in high school and a younger son who's at his last year at Pine Hill. And I currently no longer work in the engineering consulting industry. So I am actually really excited to take on this role and to use some of my background for good use.
So
Hey,
a
very
question.
good. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
So the issue before us is to appoint you for 1 month until the annual election. Have you taken out papers to run in the annual election, or are you looking to have us do this again in a month?
we'll do
No,
either
I
one.
have, I know.
She has, she was
Hmm.
voted at the town caucus and signed the paper there, so.
Okay, terrific.
Do you want to open your meeting though, Roger? Yeah, I see Tom Trainer's here. Is he on the Water Commission too? I'm not
No,
sure who's.
it's
No,
just
it's Frank.
Frank Hess and I are.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
open the meeting.
Yeah, I might just call it to order. Just simply state the date and call it to order. And
Yeah.
that's-
Yeah. This is what, March 24th.
It is.
Posted meeting of the Water Commission is now open. Thank you.
So Frank, you agree?
So I would suggest we go right to the voting because the nomination.
Marion has her hand up.
I would like to hear from Marianne, who has her hand up.
First to say that Tara, we're just so happy to have you and your expertise in the town. You have no idea. We'll probably be calling you tomorrow morning. So,
That's true.
Maybe,
That's
have-
true.
maybe a month will be good.
I don't want to scare her away, but you sound like just a wonderful addition to the town, and I'm so glad you got involved. I have one question for Roger. Why is this called a joint appointment?
I think we
Well,
all vote.
The state law requires positions on elected boards to be approved by the select persons as well.
Yeah, this is.
I see. I see.
It was the same we did with the Sherborn School Committee. Had a vacancy as well.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. I misinterpreted joined. I thought she was
Yeah.
joining two committees and not just one.
Yeah, yeah.
No. It's we're making a joint appointment with the Water Commission.
Of course. Yes. Okay, great.
And I'll just to go on top of what Marianne said, it's funny, I can't say too much, but I was just talking about asking someone who I was kind of friendly with certain technical advice. And I think you might have overlapped careers with him. Did you know about Peter Newton back at SEA?
I know.
Yeah.
Peter.
Yes, I actually worked with Peter Newton on the Birch Road treatment plant in Framingham briefly.
That's right. I think I remember that.
So yes.
I remember that I had the paint. Anyways, okay. I'm very impressed with this resume, and I'm certainly willing to move forward. So I guess let's have the water commissioners vote first, and then I'll call to order the select board to vote after that.
I move that the Water Commission appoint Dara Arahand to the commission for the current expiring term.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I call select board orders. Anyone have any motions relative to Tara's appointing as a water commissioner?
So the water commissioner had to go by roll call vote because we're doing a Zoom meeting. If we were in a live meeting, we could be doing it verbally, but even though there's only two of them, they need to do a roll call vote. Sorry to sound like a lawyer, but I am a lawyer.
We both said yes. You said all in
You have to do
no?
it with your name.
The only difference with roll call is Roger
Oh,
definitely
okay.
will say,
Sorry.
like, Frank, how do you vote? And then you'll say yes, and then Roger will do
Okay.
it.
Okay. Frank, how do you vote?
Aye.
Roger Demler, I vote aye. Thank you, Paul.
So in the select board, do I have any motions relative to Tara's appointment as a water commissioner?
Move
Yeah,
to appoint Tara Hurahan as a water commissioner.
Okay, Paul, do you second? I think it was moved by George, second by Paul. All right,
Yeah.
all in favor, Jeff,
Aye.
Marianne,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
I am I as well. Thank you very much for your volunteerism, Tara.
Thanks, Tara.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you.
And
No.
thank you for the water commission as well. If you want to, do you want to close your meeting?
I think, let me make a comment. I recently sent around some work that the commission had done about water and sewer work that might be appropriate for the ARPA funding. And there's other capital equipment coming from the federal government that might be appropriate. So we'll be back at a later day to talk about that. So I move that the Water Commission meeting be closed.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Do we need a roll
Frank?
call for this, Paul?
Yes,
Yes.
all votes have to be by roll call while we're on this remote Zoom
Roger
business.
Demler says aye.
Frank Hess is aye.
Meeting dismissed. We'll probably stay on to see what you're up to.
All right. Appreciate that. Always welcome attendance. Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you all again. And commissioners and
Thank
Tara,
you.
all commissioners now. So without any further ado, I'm actually going to move on to agenda item number 3. Consideration of memorandum of understanding with All In Energy. These presented by Dorothy Von Herter and Michael Lesser. I see Michael is here.
Dorothy,
Yeah.
she's here too. She'll speak first.
Okay, go ahead, Dorothy.
Yes, sure, guys. I'm trying to come here. I'm in. Good evening, everybody. We are here tonight to present a mutual memorandum of understanding with a nonprofit organization called All in Energy. And I don't know, Eric, if you're planning to pull up the document for everyone to have the chance to read through that a little bit.
We got it in our packet. I think we all read it.
Oh, okay, so just to put this in an overall kind of like a context, we're hoping to have more homeowners do the thing that everybody should do, like every 3 years to have a home energy assessment and to get installation for free and LED bulbs for free and a good assessment on the age and condition of your heating and cooling systems. We know that from our about 1,415 homes in town, only 230 have done so far. So that speaks to the relatively or low kind of like proliferation of this program. And the Energy Committee and myself, we have wrapped our brains around this with other towns that have the same issue and have come up with a process that could help to expedite the adoption of the home energy assessment for our residents. And that would look pretty much like that. We have the nonprofit company All in Energy. They will be, so to speak, the intake entity of the whole process, sending mailers to our homes and getting people kind of like educated on what they can have for free. And basically follow up, have a 1-800 number that residents can call, and then eventually have All Energy connect the homeowners with the home performance contractor, so the people that will come in and do these assessments. I think this is a win-win situation. It's at no cost to the town. And we would like to try that to see if we can bring the adoption up, because it will save us on the carbon emissions without any associated costs. And I think this is the so-called low-hanging fruit that we would like to roll out as quickly as we can. And we would like the town to consider this, the select board. The marketing materials that will be created by myself and All in Energy will carry the town logo, so that our residents understand that this is something solid and vetted and is coming from a town employee and from the select board. And that's the approach we like you to consider.
Okay.
And I see Michael has hand raised.
I'd like to recognize Michael, please.
Sure. I just want to add a little to, this is an existing program that's been available for years. This is a way to possibly get us, as written in the explanation background, a little more quality control and to actually do more than the program would ordinarily do in terms of educating people about their options there. I want to correct a little that it's not going to be free installation. It's heavily, the cost could be 75% covered by the program. So it'll be, and that's, we've all paid for that through our electricity bills, through the energy conservation little rider that we have on our bills there. So this is getting the money back. And this could save, I mean, I'd like to think that if we can boost rates and get another 100 or 200 people to do it, and maybe half of the people do something significant, this could save tens of thousands of dollars a year to our town residents as a whole. So this is a real winning sort of effort there, separate from even the greenhouse gas reduction efforts there. And we can get some quality control. We can promote more kind of things, the next steps about EVs and heat pumps and other kind of things. So it's sort of an entree to get people to even do more than just the standard audit there. So it's we're excited to think that this will be a program that can make a big difference for a lot of people. Thanks.
Very good. Paul.
So I want to make 3 points. First, the board should feel comfortable with this contract because it's a 15-day termination provision. So at any time, if we're unhappy with anything, it has a graceful way to exit. Second is that this is the kind of program that's good for the environment. And I think it's important that we support our committees, particularly a hardworking committee like this group. There's essentially no downside, is what I'm trying to say with the ability to terminate it. And there's a lot of upside potential. So I would urge the board to sign this.
Okay, very good. George, please.
A little confused because Dorothy said it was free and Michael said it was 75%. Is this costing the town money?
Oh, no, that's for the homeowner.
Questions.
Oh, that's just when the homeowner, the audit is free. Then you
Oh,
get a
okay.
recommendation about various things you can do to tighten up your house and other kind of things. But when you get the option to say insulate your roof, it'll have like a 5 or 7 year payback, because basically the full cost might be $2,000, but the program will cover maybe $1,500 of it. For
Oh,
example.
okay.
And so you have that. So yes, sorry if I wasn't clear.
Yeah, I was just curious. Yeah, I wasn't clear on
Yeah, sure.
costing us
I
money or not. But
could see that.
my
right.
other question is there other ways to communicate with the town other than townwide mailers? Because that doesn't sound like the most environmentally friendly thing to send junk mail to every house that might just get tossed. You know, that's, I mean, you guys are trying to be environmentally friendly, but you're talking about sending mail to another piece of mail to every single household.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, actually. I'm trying to avoid paper wherever can when I'm printing at home. I always ask my husband, do we really need this? So that's valuable to ask. Of course, we will have a social media campaign about this, George, through the newsletter and through the webpage. But I think what I'm noticing is, even though I'm trying hard with the newsletter, we will find that some households just don't, use that kind of social media. And we want to make sure that everybody knows about this. So this will be not tons of mailers. It will be one postcard, and making sure that people really do understand this is now happening, because otherwise, how will I make sure, right? That I can have a newspaper article and you'll certainly do that, but still I cannot be sure people know about this. So I think the good old postcard, believe it or not, has some impact. And I think we will do one at the beginning of the program. And then we'll see after a couple of months if a second one is needed, but I hope not.
Okay.
I'll just
Jeff.
add on the postcard thing that what might be a thing that what we could do through this program is we could ask All in Energy to actually ask people when they call in, how did they hear about the program? So that we can possibly learn about what has worked and what hasn't worked. A lot of the outreach that we try to do is to try to learn what works and doesn't work. So that that's what allows us, this kind of MOU will allow us to ask that kind of information.
That's good. That's good feedback.
Good point.
And every marketing thing that we do with my company, we find out where did you hear?
Exactly.
All right, next up, Jeff.
Yeah, I just want to point out, because it may come up on Saturday too, with the sustainability. I know when we hired the sustainability coordinator, dual positions with Dorothea and Gino, they're generating grants that are actually covering their salaries. But what I want to point out is their value is also in saving residents money, like this program, like the electrical vehicle program. So there's benefits that accrue to the town from having them on our staff that don't accrue to the town, they accrue to the residents themselves. But they also contribute to climate change reduction or lessening, and they benefit residents enormously. It could be air source heat pumps instead of a fuel oil fired furnace, and all kinds of other programs. So the benefits accrue to individuals and the town buildings itself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Marianne.
Yeah, I have a couple of quick questions. I mean, everything that we can do to increase uptake of energy saving technology is good. And so I'm in favor of anything that'll help, and I'm assuming this will, but I have some questions anyway. This is, when you refer to the program, are you referring to Mass Save, or to All in Energy? Which one?
Are you referring to the MOU, right, Marianne?
No, not the MOU, but you've spoken about how good the program is for.
Yes, I was referring to the Mass Save program.
Right, I thought
And,
so. So my,
yeah.
okay, excuse me.
Mhm.
So my question is, Mass Save has
Mhm.
a lot of materials that you've
Mhm.
helped to distribute. So I'm always looking to see, what's the added value for the extra layer of people between Mass Save and the town. And this is a layer that's going to help more townspeople take advantage of Mass Save. But I did wonder about the the support of All in Energy comes from the vendors that sell like air source heat pumps and whatever through Mass Energy or not through Mass Save or not through Mass Save. But if your interface with the town is mediated by this group, All in Energy, and they are being funded by certain vendors, they're going to promote certain vendors. And I think you need to make clear that there are other very direct pathways to Mass Save for all of this information. And you already have actually in your newsletter. So, I'm just wanting to make sure that we take advantage of what Mass Save already has and not kind of lean back and let All in Energy do things that it really doesn't need to do. I mean, here, this is sort of providing work for All in Energy, which is, it's a nonprofit, but it is a company. They have to have income of some sort.
Exactly.
So I'm concerned about the vendor bias that might be there.
Yeah, and these are really good questions that we all wrapped our brains around, Marianne, and I want to give a short answer, and maybe Michael can also jump in. Why we're doing this with All Energy, and the reason is that I and so many other sustainability coordinators, other towns never get really to the information what's happening in the home. For example, All in Energy will, when they do this intake, have kind of like an intake script where they're asking the age of the home, age of the furnace, what kind of heating system people are on, and their inclination, if they have ever thought about solar, if they ever consider air source heat pump, if they are aware of the incentives. And that information will come back to me to run more effective campaigns. And that's the information I need. I need to know who's behind that door and what do they want.
Well, my question then for you, Dorothea, just if I can jump in on that particular point, and I'll let you go on. Excuse me for interrupting. Are they more likely to respond to someone in the town like you or Michael, or to All in Energy that they've never heard of before? It sounds just like another company.
What I'm saying is, like, we have 1,400 homes, and I think running a campaign and have basically somebody on the other end doing these intakes is something that comes to us without any money, we don't pay for this. This is basically marketing of the program, and we are hoping to increase the program with that, with me not being involved. We are not spending tax dollars on that, and that's in our mind a big plus. And I let Michael maybe speak to that point as well.
If you're done, Marianne, I see Michael's raised his hand. I'd like to recognize him. Thank you. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, to further answer your question, All in Energy already, basically the Mass Save program already operates with a whole set of parties that do the intake for setting up energy audits. All in Energy already does that as part of its regular business there. So we're basically picking one of the several, well, there's many ones that do that. And we just picked that one because they were comfortable to work with. It's a nonprofit. They get the increased intake through them. They have an employment goal as part of their nonprofit mission in terms of who actually handles the intake and things like that. And then, and it allows us to get a little more oversight over we did the review of who they often who they pass on these things to what vendors they give it to. And so part of the review and decision to go this route was the fact that we felt comfortable with the companies that they were passing it on that would actually come out and do the work if people do insulation projects and that. But it's essentially tagging on to what they do regularly and that the program does there. So we're not adding an extra interface to what is already going on now in the way the Mass Safe program is set up. But it gives us the fact that they'll get a little bit more business doing this, and we get to get some more information back from them and a little better quality control over what's done. And we can get some feedback, because we've heard, part of this comes out of the fact that we've heard in town, and when I talk to others, is that some audits go swell, others don't go so swell. So they're fairly somewhat uneven. And so we're hoping to make sure we get an evenness in performance there, as well as some feedback about that. And there's other layers too, but I'll stop there for now.
And I'll recognize Paul with a question.
Not a question. I was going to make a motion to approve the contract.
Okay. Any further discussion among the board?
I'll second the motion.
A second. Motion and a second. All in favor, Jeff,
Aye.
Marianne,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
I am also aye. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks,
I'm sorry, what did you say, Jeff?
I can't remember what we have for a signature. Are you authorizing?
Oh, yes, actually, it's a good point. So actually, the draft that was submitted to us, it said interim town administrator. So I'm assuming that that motion, Paul, includes the authorization of the assistant town administrator to execute the MOU?
It did. Thank you. That's what I was saying.
Good point, Eric.
Yeah, very good. Very good. All right.
Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll have some fun
Good
with this one. Get a lot of stuff
Thank
done.
you. Thank everybody.
Thank you. All right.
Thank
Without
you
any
for
further
all
ado,
you do.
Mhm.
we have item number 4, consideration of MWA Aqueduct application. I believe, Marianne, you're the spearheader on this one, correct?
I am, and I'll make a very short presentation. The select board has this application with a lot of detail, and I'll just summarize it really quickly and then open it for questions. If I can share my screen.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, do you see this map?
Yep.
Okay, so this is the north part of Sherborn. Can you see my cursor walking around there?
Yes.
Over here is Framingham on the left. Over on the right is Natick. And this is the Sudbury Aqueduct coming through North Sherborn. You see it goes through the farms, Sunshine Farm and Columbia Farm. Couple of, it goes to Coolidge Street, passes a pumping station, goes to Coolidge Street, goes behind Meadowbrook, a row of houses on Meadowbrook Road, and adjacent to what would have been an EA development, but now is not. And then it crosses Dow's land, owned by Dow's Orchards. But the entire aqueduct route is actually on the golf course, which is a lease to the golf company from the Dowses. And then it gets back onto public land here and runs parallel to the Laurel Farm fields, crosses Route 27, and goes to the Natick line. And shortly into Natick, it runs right into private property. But further on in Natick, it continues through a rather nice route, eventually gets to Wellesley, and there's a long section of it in Wellesley. So MAPC and other trail consortiums have been working with towns to try to get as much of the aqueduct open for public trail use as possible. Sherborn, I should say the entire route through Sherborn is one of the most open routes in Metro West, actually, but it does cross private property in the area of the Dow's Orchards and these farms. The MWRA owns the entire route. So if the town wanted to do this by unilaterally by decree, we could open the entire route to to public use as a trail, but we don't want to do that because actually we tried to do that back in 2015. Eric will remember. The proposal was to get, wait, I should back up and say that step number one in allowing public access on any of this is to get a blanket permission from the MWRA. And that's what this application is about. It's all the route is already used by hikers along segment 2 here and along segment 4. People already walk out there, but it's not actually legal for them to do so without permission from MWRA, and we don't have that permission. So this application is only to get MWRA permission for people to walk on the aqueduct where it's appropriate. It's up to the town and of course the property owners that we serve to determine which segments should be open and which should not. And in light of the uproar that followed in 2015, when the planning board wanted to open the entire aqueduct, we're not proposing to open it through Sunshine and Columbia Farms. We're not proposing it to open it across the golf course, which is Dow's land. We only are proposing to open it in segments 2 and segments 4. And the details of those segments are in the application. So the application is simply to get a blanket permission from MWRA to use whatever segments are appropriate. And then if later, say the farms wanted to allow, or the golf course wanted to allow traffic across the fairways, which is not likely in the near future, but if we did, we wouldn't have to go back to MWRA to get permission. So that's my quick summary, and happy to take questions.
Okay, because in a shared screen, I can only see small little icons of people. So if you could actually use your raise hand electronic feature, I will not be able to see people doing this. Just with any questions. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I just wonder, is it used? It's not used at all anymore as an aqueduct, even for stormwater or anything?
No, it's not. Eric probably can speak to this better. I believe it's not used, but it's kept in reserve just in case.
So it can be used for emergency supply. It was actually, does anyone remember when the aqueduct in Weston blew a gasket? They activated this aqueduct. It actually draws from right on Winter Street in Framingham on the one of those reservoirs, Foss Reservoir, Reservoir number 3, or Stearns Reservoir, or something like that. In fact, it even goes underneath one of them and actually pokes out to the more upstream one. So yeah, in the emergency supply, it was activated. It was done only for fire, emergency fire use in Boston, because they didn't have any fire use. So it was a boil water alert. You weren't supposed to drink the water, but it actually can be activated. So you can't, what do you call it? You can't impact the actual structure or anything else like that. I forgot what it is, a 48 inch, I think, brick aqueduct, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, these two sections that we're proposing to be open to the public are quite safe. And these pass behind a series of houses, but it's visually really screened by trees and brush. You really hardly see it. And over here, it's a very pretty walk. I walked it yesterday through forested wetlands, and you only see one house really back there, which has a driveway over the aqueduct somehow. But
so, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm done.
So I have two questions, and then I'll recognize Paul. One is, I was on the planning board in 2015 when the torches and pitchforks came out when this was proposed. So I guess my question is there additional process after this? So like, why, I'm just trying to clarify the process. So back then it was before the hearing board, and I think there was a public hearing where abutters were notified and stuff like that. Do we still have to go through that process, or has that been done? I just want to make sure, that, that this isn't just aligned on the agenda of the select board, that there is some kind of hearing process, the abutters can actually speak on it, like they did on the planning board thing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I'm not sure about that. I've consulted with the MWRA and with Dave Lautzenheiser at MAPC, who's in charge of this program. And neither of them seem to think there's a public hearing needed, because in our case, the MWRA owns the route, and we're not proposing to impact either of the properties that have an easement to use the aqueduct for other things.
So my second question is, I'd gotten a call from someone who used to be on the traffic safety committee who's concerned about the crossing on Coolidge Street, that actually could be kind of a dangerous crossing there. I was wondering if there's been any other opinions from traffic safety on this, or any of you, if we're essentially creating an unsafe condition there by encouraging traffic flow across that, that's all.
Actually, in the application, I state that this crossing is way too dangerous, and it would be open only officially from Coolidge Street to the edge of the golf course. We would not open the green section over here. I have it green simply because it is a section that would be open if it weren't dangerous, but actually we would put stop signs basically right at Coolidge Street. I mean, I don't think anybody crosses there anyway, because it's suicidal. It's really not a good crossing at all. The crossing of Route 27, it could be potentially dangerous, but the visibility is huge. You can see far away in both directions. But MWRA does encourage this sort of crossing with proper signage and possibly pedestrian operated lights, although I don't know if it would be that important at that crossing. One option here is that the MWRA can help towns make the aqueduct more walkable, as can MAPC. We could probably get a grant to put a pedestrian operated light there. We would have to put signage for sure.
Yeah, I can see that, certainly. Okay, Paul, please, go ahead. Yeah.
Great. So I've been trying to figure out the right motion to make to approve this. I think it's a no-brainer to provide recreational opportunities for people to walk. Walking is healthy. There is so much literature out there about how healthy walking is and how it improves everything from mental health. Apparently it's a cure for depression. If you feel depressed, go take a walk and feel better. So I want to do the right motion, and this a reference in the materials to not only applying to the MWRA, but it doesn't say who in the town is going to be granted this permission. And I want to propose in the motion that it be the the select board, because it's essentially an interest in real estate, and therefore it makes sense that the select board have jurisdiction over land even from the MWRA. But I want to see what your reaction to that is, or whether you want it to be the planning board. And the second comment is that there's actually an interruption in the aqueduct, and you're proposing that there's going to be bridge work done by the Sherborn Forest and Trails Association. And do you want that authority included in the motion, or at this point, just the motion to ask for the MWRA to grant this permission to the town board of selectmen or planning board or whatever? So those are my two questions to Marion.
All right. Well, I'll turn the question around to you, Paul. I really don't care who in the town takes. I'm not sure if we grant public access, which board has to take responsibility for that. Maybe it is select board. I'm not sure. Maybe you could tell me what would be the best.
I think the default would be the select board, and then we can assign it, but I think the default's gonna be in the select board, just a generic, like, management of whatever, and I think as far as MWRA is concerned, they just want it to go to the chief executive, You know what I mean? Like, I don't think, we certainly can't like designate a conservation land or restrictions like that. It's still Sudbury land, so it's nothing.
Yeah,
We're
it's
just
not our
saying,
land.
exactly, yeah.
And as far as the little bridge that we're proposing here, Sherburne Forest and Trail is willing to build it. It's not high on their priority list and it's not high priority, but it would be a bridge that would allow people to cross-country ski if we negotiate access across the, oh, sorry, I'm over here. This is the bridge, sorry. Cross-country ski all the way across the golf course in winter. And all this has been done in collaboration, I would say. We've walked this route with the manager of the golf course and with the regional trails guy at MAPC, Lautenheiser, and with Natick open space people. So, you know, this is a kind of a regional, has a lot of regional support. As far as the little bridge here, it would just create a little extra length on this trail to the edge of the golf course, but in winter it would allow much greater access. You could go cross-country skiing all the way down to here. So the bridge would have to be done with Conservation Commission approval, and that's a separate issue. Sherburne Forest and Trail would apply for that in order to build the bridge.
So then the motion that I want to make then is, based on what you said, is something like the following: move to authorize the application in the form contained in our packet to the MWRA for permission to use the Sudbury Aqueduct lands in the town of Sherborn for pedestrian and recreational use. Does
I would
that
like
do
to,
it?
I would like to take a friendly modification to Paul's motion. I would like the red portion on section number 1 extend to Coolidge Street. I think we're even showing it in green here. I'm concerned about that crossing. It is a dangerous area there. When someone crosses it, they're just going to run into the pump house there. And I would even like to see a sign that says end of trail at the end there where number 2 comes into Coolidge Street. I get why it's on there, and I know it's no big deal to walk on that section, but I do not want to encourage pedestrian crossing of Coolidge Street. I've walked along the edge of the road there for a planning board issue once, and I swear I just walking like 200 feet. I almost got killed 10 times. That's probably one of the most, I think that is maybe subtly one of the more dangerous roads in town, to be honest with you. And I would like to see even though Paul said it's submitted, I would like to see the application modified to make that section red from Coolidge Street and a sign put in that says end of trail.
Just under debate, I would just want to say that at this point, why not get authority for the entire Sudbury Aqueduct and then have, once it gets to the Board of Selectmen, it's for us or the planning board or together or DPW, whatever, decide what, if any, of the trail we're actually going to open for use. In other words, we can't do anything until we get a license. To make it legal, we might as well get the whole thing, because 20 years from now, 30 years, 50 years from now, we may want to do something in these areas, or there may be a change in Coolidge Street or whatever. So why not scoop up the whole thing while we have a chance? If we take it out of the application, then all we have are these little bits and pieces. We don't have any control over the sections that are in red.
Actually, Paul, you're absolutely right. I start in the application. I put the various segments in the application only to show the MWRA that we're not going to open it to all the way to everybody. The MWRA really doesn't care where we close it and where we open it. They just want to know that we have permission. So on the second page of the application form, I say the primary purpose of this application is to get MWRA approval for public access to the Sudbury Aqueduct through the entire length in Sherburn for use as a recreational trail. And the second sentence is, at present, certain segments of the aqueduct are on private farms and a golf course, and these segments will not be made accessible because of safety concerns. So I like your motion to just approve the blanket MWRA permission, and then the town picks it up from there. And definitely I can change this map to take off that segment before Coolidge Street.
I would like to see that, but also I'll hear from Jeff and then Chief Galvin, so it might be safety. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna just be brief because I think maybe Tom can contribute to what I'm saying. But I am worried about traffic safety and public safety. You know, one thing that comes to mind first is where is there gonna be parking problems? If all of a sudden people wanna, you know, park on the side of Route 27 North there, just before the Natick line, where are they gonna park? They're gonna go out in Laurel Field and park? I don't know, but in terms of signage and, you know, what if we have to do a rescue in there? Someone gets hurt or something like that. Seems like we need to maybe send this to traffic safety to understand what the implications for public use are in here.
Well, it is being used publicly.
Yeah.
People access it through Gray Road right here. And
Well,
that's where I always park to walk.
People walk on train tracks too. I know that, but
no, but there is
Yeah.
there's very safe parking along, like many trails in town have parking along the road, and this is one where you can park right here. And as far as this segment goes, the Laurel Farm.
Yeah,
It's a huge parking lot.
And like Paul said, if we just make this, get this approved from the MWRA, then we can make our own regulations in-house. So.
Yeah.
But I also would like to hear from Chief Galvin, please.
Yep, absolutely. Next up, please, Chief.
Yep, and that is, as you know, we just kind of heard, that was some of my concerns as we thought about it. We just don't want to look at some of the unintended consequences. I think we look at the rail trail, and you know, we face a lot of issues on a daily basis, especially on these weekends as it becomes nice, with parking at Millstone and Whitney and the lack of available parking. So as this process moves forward, I know it's early now. I think that's something that really needs to be taken into consideration, especially since both these roadways that are crossed, there are no sidewalks. They're, as you said, Eric, they're very difficult and dangerous for pedestrians already. And if we're going to encourage use of the trails, which I think is a great idea, we just need to do the planning in the beginning to make sure that we have the proper signage in the proper direction and make sure people are parking in the right areas, because we don't want to run into the problems that we're currently having at Millstone.
Understood. And I'll just encourage it, particularly 27 can be fast, but I'll say there's good visibility at that point. But Coolidge Street, I think, asking for trouble with a blind corner there, particularly people coming from Framingham going towards Sherman. Ms. Tyler.
Hi there, how are you?
Good.
Sorry, I can't find my camera, but that's okay. You all know what I look like. Yeah, I'm calling, I'm speaking in as a member of the Traffic Safety Committee since 2004. I'm now an associate member because I'm no longer a resident there. But the traffic safety had huge concerns about crossing Coolidge Street. That is where that aqueduct comes through. It's absolutely blind. And I think the sight lines when you're crossing Route 27 there at the aqueduct also are a little on the hairy side. There's a bit of a turn there. So I think certainly this all needs to be brought before the safety committees in town. And I have sent an email out to the chair, Doug Peterson of Traffic Safety, so that we have a heads up that this is back on the table for discussion.
Sue, just to be clear, we're not proposing any crossing of Coolidge Street. It's absolutely suicidal. You're right. It just
Absolutely. But,
so yeah, we're not proposing that. So don't let traffic safety think that we are.
Oh no, I'm not. But if you look at your map there, it would imply that it is. So I agree with Eric that, you know, when the time comes, that map needs to be changed. That's not green. But then also Route 27 with that trail. I don't know if you were aware when we did the running of the bulls, there were 3 steer beef cattle that were running up and down from Natick using the aqueduct. And there was 3. That is a very, and so we crossed that aqueduct many a time at Route 27 there, chasing those damn bulls. And that is a tough spot also for, so
Yeah.
traffic safety should look at that, public safety committee should look at that.
Yes, they should. Right.
So my motion is not to open anything to public use. My motion is only to have the
Thank
town
you.
of Sherborn get acquisition, get jurisdiction over this, so it becomes up to the town to figure out if it's gonna open it at all, and if it's gonna open it, what part, and what signs, and what safety precautions. So there's nothing in the motion that says that there won't be consultation with traffic safety, with the police department, with the fire department, with DPW, with whatever boards or committees wants to play a role in it. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to make it clear that for property issues, it should be the board, the select board, that has responsibility for this property, so that everybody would be consulted, everybody would have a role. Planning board, Conservation Commission, if they want to weigh in, and anybody and everybody would have a say in it. But right now, we have no say in it. This is MWRA property.
Right. I agree with you, Paul, and I think we need to move to actually vote on this thing, because we're just discussing something that's we don't need to be discussing tonight. It's like we're wasting a lot of time. I agree with, Paul has a motion to just do this, so let's move on.
Well, Doug Peterson, the chair of traffic safety. Doug, if you can give something brief that hasn't been stated before, I'd like to hear from you, and then I'm going to make a statement after that. A question.
Sure. Yeah, so I apologize. I heard about this meeting late from Sue Tyler. So I missed Marion's presentation, but I did catch the dialogue. But I agree with Paul's recommendation to acquire the property. I mean, you might as well grab it now while you can get it, and then, figure out how best to use it. Sue alerted me to I wasn't aware of the previous discussions about this, but obviously Coolidge Street is a dangerous area. So we're happy to kind of figure out the best way to use it. But I'd say right now, you might as well acquire all the property and then figure out a way to use it properly, even if that's like, you roll it out in stages. So, and then, on the traffic safety front, we've been on hiatus because we haven't had enough, members to have a quorum, but I have 2 new members that are applying that should be coming before the select board in the near future, so we can get back on track.
Very good. I just have 2 things I want to add. I respectfully want to move on with 2 things I do want to add. One is there's kind of a sense here that this is kind of emergent. We got to grab it now. It's not really the case. It's been at least 10 years that there's been legislation passed that actually allows communities to actually apply for this. I don't think that legislation is going away anytime soon. So I just don't want to create a perception that we have to do this now or never get it done. I mean, that's not exactly the case. 2, I have a general question for people, maybe the select board, is what mechanism we're going to use to actually open this. So we authorize this. We have permission to go on this property, and then what happens? Does it come before us again to actually determine how it gets executed? Who puts up signs? Who does whatever? Is it DPW? Do we delegate this? It seems open-ended that we're going to do this, and I think it's a big deal. And I actually understand the big deal that we see this map. It's a map I don't agree with, so I think it's worth discussion right now. But then I said, we can change it later. I guess who's going to change it? And what's that mechanism to actually execute this as a trail?
Right.
Well, if I could, Eric?
Yeah, Paul?
That's why in the motion, I'm trying to say, the board, I specifically added the word select board. So there's somebody in town who's going to be responsible for this. And it seems obvious to me that since Marion has been carrying this so excellently forward, that she should continue her role and kind of shepherd this along. And she has some ideas about how it should be opened and so on. I think that's a separate discussion, as George Morrow has said, that we ought to have at a different time. I don't think we need to decide now on all of her recommendations. But the fundamental question is, do we want this or we don't? And if we don't want it, if you think it's too much of a burden for us, then vote no. But if you think you might as well acquire, it's another asset for the town, then vote yes.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment to your motion that simply says, use of the trail shall be executed at a separate action of the board, something like that. Just so like, well, as soon as like this is signed and submitted, we just realize that, 2 and 4 don't actually have become open trails immediately.
Fine, I accept that.
Okay.
Sure. And
Okay, we have a motion. Oh,
right,
sorry.
Before it's submitted, I will change this to green and change this little segment, Eric, to red. That's one little
I
change
appreciate
I'll
that.
make, but the rest of it should stand.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, we have a motion.
I think I seconded it, but I'll second it again.
Okay. And Marion, if you could
Been
stop your
too
sharing.
long.
Okay, all in favor, Jeff,
Aye.
Marianne.
No, I mean, yes.
That'd be ironic. George.
Aye.
And Paul.
Aye, just to clarify, we're voting on the motion as amended with the Eric amendment.
There you go. Don't hear that too often.
Marion,
Okay.
can you stop sharing your screen so we can,
Yes, sorry.
there we go.
And I am also an aye. All right. Thank you very much. Good discussion. I'd like to thank the police chief for being patient for waiting for agenda item number 5. Consideration of approval of agreement for an intermunicipal primary fire and police department dispatch system between the town of Sherman and town of Holbrook, Mass. Chief Tom Galvin.
So what you have in front of you is the next step in our transition to regional dispatch services. There's been a letter of attestation that was signed. With that, Director Hook filed for the development grant for Sherborn to be able to transition into the regional center. And now we've gotten some feedback on that grant from State 911. And one of their questions is were we prepared to enter into this intermunicipal agreement? I think based on the discussions we've had in the past, that's the direction we want to move. So what I would be asking is for your authorization. I believe when you look at the agreement, it would be for Chief Ward, myself, and Diane to sign. It has already been sent to Town Council for review, and we are ready to move forward today. It's nice to see this coming together.
All right. Any questions, comments from the board?
Yes.
Paul?
So I'm going to do a temporary recusal of myself on this because I have this under consideration by the State Ethics Commission. I provide legal services to Holbrook. One of the members of this organization has asked us to rewrite the IMA in a way that's more favorable to the towns. We have rewritten the IMA to be more favorable to the town. And that revised form has been accepted by the dispatch center. So I haven't looked at this agreement specifically until the Ethics Commission tells me that I can look at it, but I don't know if this is the new version as amended by the legal work or whether it's the old version. I don't feel I can even read it at this point. So I'm going to temporarily recuse myself on this vote until I hear from the State Ethics Commission.
Well, just on that point of information, I guess, Steve or Tom, do you know how recent this draft is?
Steve, I don't know if you're there, if that's something you could answer.
I think it's a bad line.
He's still muted. There he is.
I am here. I apologize. I'm in the car. I'm just leaving another meeting. Good evening, Mr. Chair and board members. So this revision is the latest. So Chief Galvin sent this over. So our legal team has looked at this. It went to Chief Galvin. His legal side has looked at it and it was accepted by us. I think that was your question.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like there's been some recent modifications. So I also want to make sure it is the most recent. I guess that's simply it.
Yes.
And just to confirm, I think, Tom, you had mentioned this, our town council has reviewed this?
Yes, they have.
Okay. In this draft.
I'll make a motion to approve Tom Galvin, Zach Ward, and Diane Morris to sign this contract.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I'll just put a provision in there that if there's a more recent draft, it should come, do you want to give them an authorization to sign a more recent draft as non-substantive, or just simply have them come back before us if there's
I
actually?
think
more
if town council's reviewed this one, let's just move forward with it. Let's not delay it.
recent- Okay. Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor of Jeff,
Hi,
Marianne,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Paul, I'll put you down as abstain.
Recused.
Recused. Okay, just as long as it's appropriately put down, and I am I as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Steve.
work on
Thanks,
this,
Tom.
Chief Galvin.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Have a good
Steve.
night.
Thank you very much.
Okay, coming to a close here. Number 6, consideration of vote of draft ballot questions for the annual town election. Town clerk, is Jackie here? Representing?
She's here.
Is she? Just trying to look.
I'm here, but I'm
There you
not
are.
representing. It's
Diane, when
Diane-
was
I
the
think this
last?
is Diane's.
Yeah,
Hi,
Okay.
you sent it at
These
2:09
were-
today, right?
This is the latest one that has number 8 on it, and that is for the assessors. So if you have the one with question 8 on it,
Yes, you sent it at 2:09 today.
exactly,
got it
because I
right.
finally got the language from town council from Amanda
Mhm.
Zaretti. So the other questions, 1 through 7, were worked on with Heidi and bond counsel. So,
Okay. One thing, Diane, there's one little typo. You just have to put a question mark at the end of question 8.
okay,
Yeah.
Oh, you got a thorough reading there, George. That's good.
I just noticed it, to be 100% honest, Jeff. I pulled it, I'm like, all the other questions end with a question mark. That one doesn't. It just popped out at me.
right.
So if I could,
We got Paul? Mhm.
so I don't like one word on the road question. where
which
it
one
has
is
the word-
that?
I can't read with the.
Paul, you're breaking up again. Your service is terrible.
My screen,
I can't hear a word he's saying.
I can't either.
I'm not saying anything.
You were, we couldn't, you were all garbled, whatever you
Yeah,
tried to
you're
say.
garbled.
All right, I wanted to delete a word from one question.
Just say the
Okay.
question in the word and we'll look right at it.
Question
That's
number.
that's the problem. I don't know which question it is, so I said it's the road one. And I'm trying to find
Well,
that.
item 2 is funding maintenance of roadway improvements by the
There it is.
DPW. Yeah,
The word maintenance is essentially not bondable.
okay.
So I wanted
Okay,
to
so-
take the word maintenance out, so it just says to fund for
Fund
the
road-
bond issue to fund roadway improvements.
Got it.
Okay,
Sounds right. That sounds
That
appropriate.
makes sense.
yeah.
And the
Okay.
other comment was that I'm not prepared to vote for any increase in taxes unless the advisory committee so votes to ask us to do it. That's been my position for at least 20 years. The advisory committee is not going to vote until Saturday. We're
You
scheduled
wanted to
for,
vote on the budgets beforehand? That's
we're
in
scheduled
taxes.
to have a meeting on Saturday. So I want to vote on this after the advisory votes, not before the advisory votes. And I want to hear the discussion, have the public hearing, hear from the public, go through all of that. And so I would respectfully request that we not vote on actually adopting these ballot questions until advisory tells us what they want us to do.
I 100% agree with you, Paul, and I hope that was recorded. So next year, when you try to push the budget votes early, we can replay this, that you want to wait until you've seen and heard everything. I want to remember this moment.
And then we're gonna have 2-day advisory public hearings. Yeah. So the only
I
thing
just
Paul
want
is,
Paul, I
yeah,
want to state it in the record that Paul wants to wait until he's heard everything before he votes on something.
the only thing, Paul, is we've already voted to approve these projects. Okay, and when we voted on each capital project, so we don't have any other source of funding than excluded debt for those projects.
We could use ARPA funds, or we could, maybe advisory is going to use free cash.
I want to hear from Jackie. I want to know if
Yeah.
there's a timing issue here. I have a feeling there's a timing issue. So Jackie, if you could please fill us in.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're not going to vote now, then you guys need to schedule another meeting before April 5th, because April 7th is your next meeting and 35 days before the election is April 5th. So that's your mass
Our
general
next
law.
meeting is the 26th.
We have a meeting on Saturday, Jackie. We can vote then.
Oh, but I thought you wanted to vote after advisory.
I think at the end of the hearing, we would vote on it.
We could actually do
Okay,
that.
okay,
Now,
got it.
This comes up every
Okay.
year. This can't be the first time this comes in, like this whole timing thing and days before
Right.
the election and advisory and the things.
Right.
And this is only my 4th year on the select board, right? Or is it, what is it? Yeah, 4th year. And it just seems like this should be, well, whatever.
Yeah, we've always voted advisory hearing at the end of the discussion that day.
Okay, but also if the question goes on the ballot, that doesn't mean that we have to borrow the money, correct?
That's right.
On the ballot. That's all it means. And there have been times, and just to bring up a sore example, like with the turf fields where it didn't get supported by town meeting, but still was on the ballot because they had to vote ahead of time there. So I guess Diana,
Let's just put this off. I agree with Paul. Let's wait till Saturday and vote on this.
I would like Diane to modify. I made an agenda for Saturday's select board meeting. If you
Yeah,
want
then we'll
to
get
look at that.
revised tomorrow. It'll get revised tomorrow, submit it back to the town clerk's office.
Thank you very much. And Stephen, do you have
Yeah, just for what it's worth, regarding the free cash versus borrowing, because we knew this was an issue at the last advisory meeting, we discussed each of the potential capital items, and we already made a determination as to whether we would recommend free cash or borrowing. So the things that are on the ballot item, on the ballot sort of draft, has already been through advisory. So there shouldn't be any question as to whether advisory will recommend free cash or borrowing for certain things like that. What Jackie has or what Diane has is what advisory is recommending.
So my response to that would be that there's a public hearing going to happen on Saturday, right?
Yep.
Why would we be having a public hearing if you've already decided the issues? I think that sends a message to the public, don't bother to come. We've already decided the issues. This is just not a real hearing. I'd rather, it's good that you know where you want to go, but I would ask the board to at least hear what people have to say on these different appropriations before we actually put it on the ballot.
I'm sorry.
well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, so I'm just saying, we haven't voted on the items as to whether we're going to approve them or not, but in terms of the funding source, that's what we've discussed. Should they go through, the funding for this item would be free cash, for this item would be borrowing. And that's a discussion that we had with Heidi as well. And generally speaking, during the public hearing, we don't usually discuss that with the public. It's mostly just a matter of, is this a good thing to have or not? I think timing wise in past years, we haven't had that discussion at the public hearing either. It's only been after the public hearing, once we know how we voted, we then have another meeting and discuss which items will be free cash and which items will be borrowing. But something about the timing this year and last year meant that we had to make that determination before the hearing.
If you decide not to go forward with one item or two items or three items, you decide a majority vote of advisory is not to go forward with an item, then why would I put it on the ballot for the taxpayers?
Well,
Are you saying you want it on there anyway?
Can we just delay this till Saturday? Do we need to really have this argument right now?
Okay.
And I was saying, I'm fine with making it an agenda item. It'll be quick. It's gonna be 5 p.m. on a Saturday after a long meeting. We're going to talk all of them to death. I think it's just going to be an automatic thing. So I agree with George and Diane, I've already directed her to put this on the agenda. Just make it at the end of the meeting. That's what I would like to do. Is there any other concerns on that?
No.
All right. So do we need a motion relative to this or nothing? I think it's just simply, we're in consensus that Diane's going to include it on Saturday's meeting. Okay, good enough. Okay, which one are we at? We're at the review discussion of prep for advisory hearing, rather ironically. I see the Diane updated the, as Diane or Gina, I can't remember, updated the score sheet. I've glanced through it. It looks correct as far as my recollection goes. I think I signed the warrant today. I think there's one more signature, but at least got 4 select board signatures on the warrant right now. I guess, is there any further discussion with this, or Diane, was there anything you wanted to bring up relative to this agenda item?
No, we're all set on that. I think that we reviewed the checklist that Jeannie put together. It looks good, and we should be all set now that we got the ballot questions. I will resend it to the select board tomorrow morning after I make that change.
Perfect.
All right. Any further discussion for this?
Jeannie just popped up.
Oh,
I'm gonna
sorry,
sign
Jeannie.
for Paul tomorrow. I was waiting for Eric to sign. I'll sign Paul's tomorrow, and then I'll post the signed version on the website.
Very good.
I was going to add, I think you guys saw, but we're posted for 8:15 a.m. select board on Saturday and at 8:45 for advisory. There are 2 different Zoom invites. So we'll have a Zoom invite for the select board session that we sent out, and Stephen has sent out the one for the advisory hearing. So you'll have to switch at 8:40 to a different
Right, the
Zoom.
board will have to come out of the select board meeting and go into the other Zoom link that I sent everybody.
Just a heads up.
Fine.
Yep.
8:15. Wow,
Yeah, look
what are
forward
we
to that.
serving for breakfast?
And what do we have to talk about for 30 minutes?
I don't know, we're not allowed to work to go to the meetings together, so whatever you pick for yourself, so.
Yes.
Right. Well, what are we going to talk about for 30 minutes? That's my concern. I almost want to make it 8:30, but I guess it's too late now.
Well, we could just.
We're
Well,
fine.
we've
If we don't
always
have anything,
posted
we
a
can
half
just
hour
adjourn
before the
and
meeting.
go to the next and come
Yeah.
back. half
I'm
an
just
hour.
letting you know that there's separate Zoom links mainly, so you wouldn't.
So I'm not sure I have either. So Diane, can you send me both?
We're on the town website. Go to the town website on the
There
town.
are, it was in your packet that I sent you, George, Paul. I'll send it again to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. And I'll say routine business. Any select board reports? Town administrator report? The only report I have is,
Go ahead.
no, I was going to say Gonzaga's playing, and I want them to go to number 1, so they started. So
Oh.
I heard the Villanova Michigan game's pretty good right now too. so.
I'm a hockey guy. I'm going on Sunday to the quarterfinals of the NCAA Frozen Four. So, and I've got tickets to the finals of the Frozen Four at Boston Garden.
Hey, Jeff, I went to the BC North Carolina women's lacrosse game on Sunday with the
Oh,
girls.
really?
It was
Wow.
really good. It was 16-15. They were the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country. There
Yeah,
were
yeah.
5,000 people at that game. They weren't expecting that big of a crowd.
Wow. Was it in Foxborough? Where was it?
No, it was at BC's alumni stadium.
Oh, Alumni Stadium. Yeah, yeah. Okay. I was going to add one other semi-select board report. Marianne talked about the rail trail and bridges. You know, we're always looking for Eagle projects for the Boy Scout troop. So we've built many bridges around town, and you know, we even had Peter Brockway test one of the bridges over. I forget which trail it was on, but he had to hold him. He's a big guy, and his horse. He did it on horseback, so he tested our bridge. He's probably a 225-pound guy. He's like 6'4" or 6'5", and so we have bridge builders.
Hey, Tom Trainer just chatted to everyone. Gonzaga is now down by 5. Eric says
okay.
not for long.
All right, so let's adjourn so we can go watch the game.
Okay.
all right. Do I have a motion, along those lines? That sounds like a motion, George.
I move that we thank Susie for coming and not being Ben Franklin tonight.
I totally thought she was Velma, by the way.
I move that we adjourn the select board meeting.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor, Jeff,
Aye.
Marianne,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
I am I as well. All right, thank you.
Good night.
See everyone on Saturday, bright and early.
Ciao, guys.